Kevin Shutty, and he's with me this morning to talk a little bit more on this. Morning, Kevin.
Morning, Jeff. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Hey, we're hanging in there for sure.
So this has become quite a big story statewide as the major TV networks have picked it up, and they're kind of looking at this issue too, and it's a tough subject for everybody trying to crunch these numbers halfway through the year.
Sure.
Where are we at? Can the citizens do anything to help out this process, or is it just the department heads now, and where are we
Well,
at?
so we're going to see, I think, a lot of citizen involvement here in the next week, whether that be at today's commission meeting or next week's public hearing about the budget reduction proposals that are out there. And I always encourage that. As your listeners know, every time I've come on here, I've said, don't wait for a public hearing. Don't wait for a crisis to get involved in your local government. This is a great example of that.
Right.
But I would also just like to say these are very disappointing times. And I say that not as a commissioner, but I say that as a resident and a taxpayer in Mason County. These are very disappointing times. I'm disappointed in the culture of government that has existed here in Mason County for a number of years. As you and your listeners know, I took office this January, came in January, and when I ran last year, Jeff, one of the things that I constantly talked about was the need for a new direction forward in Mason County. I talked about how we couldn't allow the problems of the past and the voices of the past to dictate our future. And I think we're really at a crossroads here in Mason County, and that's what makes this such a big challenge, is that we have to make some very difficult decisions, and there are no easy decisions before the commission at this point. But we're at a crossroads, and it's an opportunity for us, I think, to really change the culture and the way of doing business in Mason County government. And so that's why I think it's important for the citizens to be involved, be engaged, and I look forward to that conversation as well.
When it comes to the sheriff's budget, I know he is an elected official. Is he, under the county budget, the only elected official that has these budget, that has to come up with his budget and things like that? And does that add a certain extra layer of difficulty?
So he's not the only elected official that has to come up with a budget.
Okay.
So we have an elected auditor, treasurer, assessor, coroner, prosecutor. We have elected judges, both in district and superior court. And so, that really speaks to the need to have this be a collaborative process. One of the things that I've tried to do as chair is be as collaborative with the other electeds as possible. We briefed the other electeds in April on the budget and cash flow issues that the county was having. We had a briefing on the financial position of the county. This is something that I've heard from the other electeds in the county, that they've known that this was coming for a long time, and they say, well, how can the commission not know? Look, there's going to be a lot of time for finger pointing, and there's going to be a lot of time for looking at this and doing a post-mortem on it. But my focus has been, okay, how do we handle what's happening right now in 2017 in an effort to make 2018, 2019, 2020, and beyond some of the best years in Mason County? How do we put this behind us and not repeat history? And that's the attitude that I'm looking for from all the other electeds and department heads. And I think there's the capacity to do that. We have to move past some of the problems that we've had and working together. And we need to start putting the people of Mason County first, the taxpayers of Mason County first, and make sure that we're managing their money effectively, efficiently, being good stewards of our limited resources.
So you'll come back today. There is a county commission meeting tomorrow, next week, as well. And you've given the chairs and the department heads a number that they have to reach to drop their numbers in the budget. Mm-hmm. What happens if they don't do that, either by refusal or just unable to? They've looked everywhere and there's not a single penny anywhere. What happens next?
Well, I'm looking for good faith effort here from everybody. I've made it clear that my door is open, and I want the lines of communication to be open with my office. I suspect that the other two commissioners, Commissioners Netherland and Commissioner Drexler, were going to be in the same spot as me. They'd be willing to have conversations. I do know that this week I'm going to be heading over to the sheriff's office and taking a look at their budget. I'm happy to go through that line by line and help them try and find areas where we can maybe save, areas where we can improve. And I have that offer out to all the other electeds and department heads affected by this. One of the things that I think we need to make very, very clear in this, that I've seen some, I think maybe misunderstanding or miscommunication on, is the percentage of the cuts this year and next year.
Okay.
It's been said that this year we're asking for an 8.5% cut, 7.3%. I know that that's not a huge difference, but it is 7.3% this year. I've seen it said that we are going to be looking for a 17.5% a cut again next year. Simply not true. Next year we're going to be looking for the remainder. It's a 17.5% cut over 2 years.
Okay.
And so we're going to be looking for the remainder of that as we head into the 2018 budget. This is an opportunity for a hard reset. And I know it's very difficult, and I know that there are a lot of people that are going to be impacted by these cuts, but we have to live within our means. We only have what the taxpayers are willing to provide at this point. And the county has not always taken the 1% property tax increase, for better or worse. It's just that's a fact.
Sure.
We haven't gone out and asked for the 0.3% public safety sales tax increase. Right or wrong, for better or worse, it's a fact. So we have to have a real conversation about what the people of Mason County are willing to support from a tax perspective, which I think is the next step in this conversation. We have to get things under control. Right now, we have to address the problem at hand, and then we have to have a realistic conversation about the kinds of services and the level of services that the people of Mason County want, and then how they're going to be willing to pay for them. As a taxpayer myself, I'm willing to have that conversation, and so I hope that others are willing to join me in a good faith conversation about it.
So you can, by state charter or county decree, increase property tax rates 1% each year without going to a vote of the people. Is
Correct.
That right?
Correct.
Can you also, at the same time, add a 0.3% for the public safety at that same time?
No, and as we went through this process, we were presented a number of options by our budget staff, and most of those, the overwhelming majority of those, require a vote of the people.
Right.
Obviously, that costs money to put that on a ballot, so you have to pay a little to get a little, I guess,
Sure.
in that case, which is a problem that we have right now. But and certain questions on the ballot have to go on certain different elections. So there are some, like a levy swap between the road fund and the general fund, would have to go on a general or a primary election. Others, could be at any time, could hold a special election for them. But so there's a variety of ways that we have to do it, but they all have to be voted on by the public.
Okay.
And they all require either a 2/3 majority or a simple majority. So
today is, excuse me, the 11th of July. Ballots for the primary are going to be mailed out today. Is there any talk that by for the November election there'll be anything on the ballot from the county commission relating to this?
At this point, no, and simply because it would need to be to the auditor's office by August 1st. And so my hesitation with putting anything on the November ballot now is there wouldn't be enough of a public process. I do believe that the public would need to have an opportunity to weigh in, review the proposal, and then if we're going to do a public safety sales tax increase, it would be my preference to have a good plan in place as to what those dollars would be used for. I think if you look at a school bond or you look at a fire EMS levy, they always do a great job at coming forward and saying, we're going to build this kind of a school, or we're going to make these kinds of improvements, we're going to buy this kind of a piece of fire apparatus, etc. We need to have a similar plan. Are we going to use this? Is this going to go directly to more cops on the street? Is this going to go into diversion programs within the courts, public defense? So we need to have the public weigh in and vet those options, and I think at this point it would be hasty to rush into putting something on the ballot for November because it's due August 1st.
Mm-hmm. Finally, if these numbers don't square by the end of the year, can the county shut down?
Listen, we're not going to get to that point. We're going to make the hard decisions now, and we're going to make sure that we don't put ourselves in that position. And that's again why I call on everybody to come together. work with me, work with the commission, and let's get this thing solved for the people now.
All right, so today is a regular meeting, and you have some public hearings going on, talking about some decks and things like that. But in addition to that, people will be able to make comments. And
yeah. So, and this is going to be as regular a meeting as we normally have. We do at the beginning offer an opportunity. It's only a 15-minute period for citizens to come forward and address issues that are not on today's topic. So for everybody at home listening or on the road listening, the budget reduction proposals are not on today's agenda. They would have an opportunity, though, to address that in that 15-minute period.
Okay.
And so, and again, if you can't make it down, I know we meet, during the workday. It's tough for people to get down here for sure. Email us, call us. Let us know. I've certainly gotten a number of emails and phone calls over the past few days, and so, here in 2017, that's one of the better ways to get in touch with your elected representatives.
Pretty quick. All right, Mason County Commissioner and Commission Chair Kevin Shutty, thanks for coming on.
Great, Jeff. Thanks.